So now we'll work with the database connections. The first thing that what you need to understand before we go into the methods and all, first let's understand the scope, or let's understand the purpose of it, and then we can understand in detail why it is and where and how it is. As we know the manual testing, now we already discussed in the manual testing, say every test case that whatever we write, at the end it ends with the database validation, right? So every transaction that whatever we do in the front end, the validations and all, the data what we apply, the changes what we do in the front end, we have to make sure that that changes or that data is updated in the database properly. Now when manually we have to do it. At the same time, since we are automating the same test cases through automation, if you say like, okay, the front end transaction I automate, but after that, okay, do the database validation manually. That means in one test case, one part you are doing automation, another part you are doing manually. So that means every test case again doing some manual intervention in between or manual actions that you are doing. But that's not a right thing to do. So that's the reason what you need to do is, whenever you are automating the test cases, if the test case defines the database validation or test case requires the database validation, then that should be done through automation as well. Okay, and this is one. Or sometimes, some data will be, there are always see like this. There will be always some new data or there could be some existing data, right, for every scenario, or depends on the test case that you work. Now let's say for example here, okay, what I need is, assume I'm doing a customer activation, and when I'm doing a customer activation, okay, a basic flow I'm taking, then what are the fields that I need to enter? Maybe first name and last name, I can enter any data that won't be stored in the database, I can directly apply it. But there are other fields also there, ID, proof, all this, then I can provide from Excel. But when I take then SSN number, there is something called SSN number or whatever other number that whatever you have in India, like that. When I provide this, the requirement here is the number whatever I provide here, SSN or other number, that must be unique. That means there should be no existing customer with this other number whatever I provide. If there is an existing customer with this, then new activation cannot happen. It has to, my system should immediately reply with the error saying that existing customer found with this already, right? Then, so what I will do, this other number I place in Excel, but that value directly should not be placed in the Excel application for new activation. What I do, whatever the number that I have given there, first I have to verify. Okay. Then, so whatever the SSN or the other number, whatever the unique ID we provide, first you need to verify, is there any record available with that particular number? Maybe assume maybe customer personal details table is there in the database for every type of data that to be stored. To store personal details, one table will be there, or to store account details, one table will be there. To maintain database, to maintain billing details, one table will be there. Contract details, another table will be there. To maintain all their plans, features, like this, there are a lot of tables will be available. Now we need to understand in which table this SSN numbers and all stored for the existing customers. In that, I need to verify. Okay, so is there any, for any customer, this SSN or other number is related? Then what I will do, I'll just write a basic query. Select star from so-and-so table where SSN equals to so-and-so SSN number what I am giving here, or other number equals to so-and-so other number that are what I am giving. Then when I run this query, there should be no record returned in the database. But if this particular query, if there is any record returns for me, because my condition I am saying is where SSN equals to so-and-so SSN number, like that. So this condition should not match with any of the record. If it is matching with any of the record, then that means there is a record already placed with this. Then in the directly I need to write this, instead of passing that SSN to the application, I just say, okay, with this already there is an SSN placed, so please provide a new SSN number, like that. Some kind of validation. I need to verify the data is there or not sometimes. Then this is where you must have to do. Otherwise, if I do this manually, all this database check, and then if I provide, lot of time I take here. The purpose of automation is to save the time, right? to save the manual time and all. But when I'm doing all these things manually, then if I apply the data in the application, then or to the data file, obviously it takes a lot of time again for manual. So there is no much difference between doing automation and manual here. So these things should be done automatically. So this is where you have to use database again. Then one more is, maybe some next will come to that. When I come to the SIM number, I can't provide any SIM number whatever I want in the application directly. So that SIM number what I provide should be there in the database, first thing, because I need to take the SIM number. And all the SIMs will be there in database. Now when I'm activating an Airtel, SIMs should be stored there in Airtel store or in the Airtel database, right? But status will be different. If the SIM is never activated, then status will be AA, available for activation. Then, so if the SIM is already activated, there could be other status, maybe AE or some activation will be, some status will be there. So what I need to do, okay, whenever I'm activating a customer, first I need to select SIM number from SIMs table where the status of the SIM number equals to AA. If I run this query, it returns the data. I need to take that. So it will take only the SIM number, whatever is available for activation. But if I provide this data in Excel directly, the SIM number, instead of getting from database, if I provide that, but whatever the SIM I have provided, it might be already used by somebody, right? Then while taking that SIM manually, I ran this query and I have taken. But while executing, before me, somebody might have run the same query and they might have got the same SIM number, so they might have used. My script will get failed, saying that SIM is already used. But that should not be. Before it applies the SIM number in the application, my script should automatically fetch that from the database. I will define the query accordingly. It has to run the query automatically, fetch the data and should pass to the application. So like this, some data I will directly pass from Excel. If that is not a unique data, can be duplicates also. But when I say the data for every execution, data is keep changing, or the data, some data will be stored in the database. So in such cases, instead of running the queries manually and taking the data and passing to the script, my script itself, I just pass the query to the script. So run this query to get this data, run the query in the database. Then my script should automatically run that query and should automatically fetch the data. So like this is the importance of using the database connections in the script. So almost in every application that whatever we have, then we need to do this kind of database validations and all. How we do manually, in the same way we need to do with the automation as well. Not only just validation, sometimes we do the manipulations. Like I will take a SIM number and I will manually I update the SIM number status, SIM status. If I update the SIM status in the database, then I should not be able to use that SIM in the application. Some cross verification that we need to do. So sometimes we need to run select queries to fetch the data, or sometimes we need to run update queries to update the data in the database and all. So everything can be done through this database connections. Okay, now when it comes to the database connections here, there are different types of databases that we do have. So we have SQL Server database, or we have Oracle database, and we have MS Access also can be a database. At the same time, even Excel also can be a database. So far, we have how are we getting the data from Excel? By using Excel application, opening the workbook and connecting to the sheet, unlike that we are getting, right? But there is one more way also. An Excel can be treated as a database source. It's a data source, it can be a database source. And each sheet in the Excel can be treated as a table. So you can run the queries to get the data from particular sheet in the Excel. So by using this database connections, you can also retrieve the data from Excel and all. Okay. Then what like this, we have different databases available. But when it comes to the scripting, right, the way we validate the database or the methods what we use are common for any database. Methods won't vary. But thing is, from database to database, tables will be different, right? Table names or the data what you store project to project, it is different, right? Column names will be different from table to table and all. So queries will be keep changing. That is first thing. And second one is the way we make the connection to the database will vary from one database to another database. The way we connect to the SQL server is little different from the way we connect to the Oracle. Okay? So there are various things that it will be there. When it comes to the SQL server, right, the authentication modes are different here. So there are two types of authentication modes. Tomorrow you will understand this much better. There is server level authentication or Windows authentication, we call it as, or two modes of authentication we have. So the difference between these two is, now assume that this is what my system is. I installed the SQL server in my system only. When I authenticated for this system already, that means when I logged into the system already, I can access anything whatever I have in the file, in the system. So I don't need to authenticate one more time for SQL server. What I can do is I can ask the SQL server to say, take the Windows credentials directly. So I don't provide the username and password separately for you, and whatever the username and password I have given for Windows while logging in, take that and authenticate me. So that means I don't need to give separate authentication for server. Since I am already authenticated for Windows, I can take the same Windows authentication to the server as well. Got what I'm saying here? That's called Windows authentication. But sometimes, what I need to do is I need to provide the restrictions. Server is not installed in this system. Server is somewhere in location, and this is just a client. My system is just a client. From here, I need to make the connection. I don't log into the system where the server is installed. I can't access the system directly inside or everything. But only for that server in that system, they will give me the authentication. So that is a server level authentication. So I'm not authenticated for Windows, that Windows. I'm authenticated only for the server which is installed. So this server level authentication will have the restrictions again. That means the admin, whoever we're working on, he can restrict the client credentials or authorization levels for client credentials. Like, okay, one user is just, he can view the data, whatever is there, that's it. Another user, he can insert the records, or he can view the records, or he can update the records, but he will not be able to delete it. And other user, he can create the tables, or he can create the schemas and all. Like this, depends on the user role, they can restrict the permissions. So server level, but Windows authentication, all the permissions will be there for Windows authentication. But when it comes to the Oracle, then we don't have this kind of authentication modes. For Windows authentication, Oracle, we don't have this. Everything is server authentication. That means no matter if you are logged into the server and if you are executing the query, you must have to provide the username and password for the server. It's not like, I have already logged into the Windows, take the same credentials. No, that's not the right thing. So you must have to, even though you logged into the Windows where the Oracle server is installed, still you must have to provide the username and password for the Oracle. So like this, the way we connect to the server is different from SQL server to Oracle. You got what I'm saying? This makes the difference. Otherwise, the methods that whatever we have, like once we make the connection to the server, the way we execute the SQL query, and the way we connect to the tables, and the way we retrieve the data, the way we validate will be same. The methods whatever we have, methods won't vary from the server to server. Okay, we'll stop here today.